obviously this is completely my fault because I haven't been spending enough time going back and reviewing the words that I learned from previous lessons. When something's not working, I adjust and amend and continue. A quick summary for this video. I'll be talking about some adjustments I've made to my language learning journal, things that haven't been working for me that I have changed now, how I summarize my language learning progress every week and every month, and also generally how it is going with my languages, as well as some adjustments I've made to my learning materials. Hello everybody, the sun is setting, so I'm gonna see if I can make this really fast, but I just really felt that today I should talk about flexibility in goal setting as well as pressure in the language learning community. So I know something that we all enjoy doing is setting language learning goals for the year, and that's definitely something that I'm doing at a smaller scale by setting goals for every 3 months, so for every quarter of the year. And that's been going really well, but I do feel that there's so much pressure from people who watch my videos or people on Twitter asking me for updates on how it's going with my language learning. So sometimes I do question and think, am I a failure if I don't stick to my goals and what I've set out to do? You know, life gets in the way, work is really busy. It's just not possible to, study languages every single day and progress as fast as I want to, and to progress as fast as people expect you to. That's also why I like to approach my language goals as a framework and a guide rather than, maybe goals is not the right word. It's good to have goals in the sense that there is something you are working towards and it's guiding you. But if this is something that is causing you unnecessary stress, if you're not able to keep up with it, and if you think you're a failure for not achieving it, then there's a deeper problem. If you're feeling the same way as I do sometimes, that like, oh, I haven't achieved my goals, we're already in February and it's been really tough. It's okay, we're human. Like, it's good to share how it's going so that we can enjoy conversations about, what's working and what's not. But if it's becoming like a danger to our mental health, if this is all that we're thinking about, if we're not able to enjoy the process anymore, then that's really bad. So I want to show you that at the beginning of the year, I indicated which chapter of my Tagalog textbook I want to be doing every week. And in all transparency and honesty, I haven't been able to do a chapter a week. I thought that that was plenty of time because it usually takes me 3 days to complete one chapter, and I thought giving myself a week will be good. But again, that's idealistic, and what I like to do is adjust it as I go along. That's also why I'm only planning in 3 months and not 6 months to a year ahead. I mentioned this in the previous video, but I like to apply like a agile mindset or a framework that when something's not working, I adjust and amend and continue. Something else I have changed in my language journal is originally I wanted to write a diary entry in Hungarian and Tagalog every single week. And I found that really difficult. And I thought, well, in the spirit of flexibility in my language learning, tracking and progress, I'm gonna change that. If it's not working for me, I am just not gonna do it anymore. Now, the reason why I'm not writing short journal entries every week is 2 reasons. Number one, I find that I'm getting enough writing practice, specifically in Hungarian, because I already write about 1 essay a month, plus I have my Hungarian lessons once a week, and I get just enough reading and writing practice from Hungarian overall. With Tagalog, I am definitely not at the phase where I can write a lot of sentences. I am super beginner. I don't even know if I'm A1 yet. I've only been learning for about 2 or 3 months. I found that while I'm trying to write something in Tagalog, I'm struggling for sentences, and I found myself just rewriting phrases that I'd learned in my lesson. Now this is useful, but it gets tedious when I set this expectation for myself. Ooh, a bird. When I've set this expectation for myself to write a diary entry every week in Tagalog, and I cannot meet that every week, I'm like, oh, I just don't have the vocabulary yet. Absolutely fine. I've realized this thing that's not working for me, and I'm changing it. I'm just going to be focusing my efforts on other ways of learning the language, continuing using my apps, my textbook, catching up with that, and my italki grammar lessons, and there's enough speaking in that lesson as well. So until I get to a level good enough to write these diary entries, it's not helping me to struggle weekly trying to think what I want to say. Instead, what I'm doing now is doing a weekly and a monthly language learning reflection. I don't want to be a YouTuber that like tells you guys what to do. All I'm doing is just sharing how I do things. You don't even have to track what you're learning if you don't want to. That's absolutely fine. But what I'm doing is just writing a summary of how my learning went that week. Now, sometimes I write it in Korean just because it's fast and natural for me. Sometimes it's in English or Afrikaans. But I would write things like, my learning went really well this week. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I did so and so. And then I would say, how many days of focused active study did I have? I wrote one essay, I had 1 day of passive learning or apps, and 1 rest day to focus on my mental health. So that's been useful for me. This week, I barely did anything last week. It was really bad. And I wrote in my summary, this week, Bible study was way more important for me, so I didn't study any languages. And I had an argument with somebody, and that really made the week difficult for me. Just by leaving a little note for myself about how this week went, I can look back and say, and not feel bad about not doing anything. I only had 2 italki lessons, and it was a really rough week. So I'm not punishing myself for not doing something every week. All I'm doing is reflecting on it and seeing what can I change in the following weeks. So that's my weekly reflection, and then my monthly reflection. Today is the last day of February, so I'm gonna do my February reflection in a bit. But for now, I have a January reflection here. And all that I've done is written French, Hungarian, and Tagalog because these are the main languages I focused on in January, and just say how it went. So in Hungarian, I'm surprised that I didn't forget everything, still need to be more disciplined in reviewing my lesson notes. Tagalog, I'm very behind with my textbook. French, it's been a long time since I've used French, but I had 3 occasions to speak it and it's going well. Just little things reflecting on that. When I make my February reflection, I will think about the languages I studied the most. Now, how I look at that is just through the calendar that I've got for myself here. So I mark which days I study what for active studying, and I also have my weekly log obviously on the left here where I fill in my language lessons and textbooks and apps that I use. So I just go back and I think, okay, well, February I've done a lot of Hungarian, Tagalog, and Chinese. Recently I've been using the Do Chinese app to do more Chinese reading. I've upped my Hungarian language lessons from once every 2 weeks to once every week, and so forth. And there was 1 week this month where I studied Hungarian in depth, very actively, every single day. And I'm really proud of myself for that because I don't always study every single day. I rarely do. So yeah, I'll just think back about how it went in the month and then write a monthly summary. And that's just a nice way for me to close off the month and just say, like, hey, you tried your best. It's okay. Difficult things happen, and it's fine if you're not sticking to your goals per se. But what I'm doing here is fostering an environment and a mindset of small changes and adjustments and just a healthier outlook on language learning, going easier on myself. My life and my job doesn't rely on my performance in languages, and I want to keep it a hobby and keep it fun. So that's the mindset I'm going to continue for March as well. Again, March is part of the first quarter of the year, so I am going to continue focusing on Hungarian and Tagalog with a bit more Chinese coming up because it's really fun for me. And I'm just taking it every week at a time and doing my weekly summaries and seeing how I can improve going forward. So nothing rigid, nothing strict. There are no rules here. This is just how I'm enjoying my process at the moment. And for the very last part of this video, before the sun sets completely, I'll do a quick language update. My Hungarian has improved a lot. I've been writing a lot more. I try to write impromptu essays as much as I can. Now, what I mean by this is just choosing a topic on the spot, like maybe my weekend or language learning or a cafe, or I just choose a topic and then I write as much as I can without using a dictionary. And that way I can see, you know, how easy is it for me to remember words, how many words do I need to be looking up, and it helps me kind of track my progress and see how fresh are the words in my head. So I've been writing a lot more, and in the spirit of honesty, I remember maybe 3 weeks ago my Hungarian tutor said, Lindie, I wonder if these lessons are working. I don't think they are. And I was like, what? Oh my goodness, no. He said that we constantly move on to new topics and new grammar and new vocabulary without really solidifying what we've learned. And obviously this is completely my fault because I haven't been spending enough time going back and reviewing the words that I've learned from previous lessons. So that was a little like beep, 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 warning sign for myself to put more effort into Hungarian. I cannot keep moving on to new lessons and new material if I haven't solidified everything that I've learned over the past 2 months in my memory already. So what I'm doing now is making sure I review my notes enough, rewriting important phrases and sentences, and immersing even more with Hungarian articles, podcasts, and music, so it's constantly fresh in my mind. I also like that my tutor tells me what we will be talking about in the next lesson. So I know tomorrow evening we're going to be talking about gyümölcs, which are fruits, and I love fruits. So what I can do now is just review everything we've spoken about nature and fruits and food before, so that I have those words fresh in my head. And the more I use them, the more I am going to remember them. I don't sit and go through flashcards repetitively. I like to integrate it more naturally through conversation. But an adjustment I've made to my Hungarian learning is to have my tutor tell me what I can expect for the lesson ahead, and that's been working really well. Okay, Tagalog, it is quite slow. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I have not been keeping up with my textbook. However, I have changed my bi-weekly, I want to ask about this word. I know bi-weekly to mean 2 times a week. Bi-weekly, but I think it also means once every 2 weeks. Now, I don't know why this word means 2 completely different things. Let me know in the comments what you think bi-weekly means, because it confuses me. What I meant to say is fortnightly. Once every 2 weeks, I had a Tagalog lesson, and I have upped that to have Tagalog once every week, which has been good. I felt like the gap between my lessons was way too long, and I was forgetting stuff and not doing my homework because I was like, oh, there's so much time, and then time runs out. So giving myself a little bit more pressure has been really good for my Tagalog. I'm really enjoying doing my homework, and my tutor is, she teaches really fast. She puts a lot of pressure on me, and it's been helpful because where I am struggling to keep up with my textbook, I feel like I can compensate for that by being pressured and being taught a lot in my lessons. So that's been good. Then the other language that I've been focusing on is Chinese, and I have been using the app Do Chinese because they have really cool articles that you can read. I'm not sponsored by them, I'm not asked to make this video at all, but I am an affiliate. If you would like to check the link in the description for a 10% discount, you are welcome to. No pressure. That aside, yes, I have been using Do Chinese a lot because I enjoy that there's audio, that there's articles I can read. I will take 2 sentences from an article or 2 lines from a conversation, write them out. I will mark the pinyin, so the tones that every word has if I don't know it off by heart. And I will circle any new vocabulary. I will try not to write a full translation. I want to push myself rather to read for context and see if I could just, scratch in my memory a little bit to figure out what the sentence means. And then I write the sentences again, and then I write it again without a translation. So I will write the same sentence about 3 times. I will also play the audio over and over, and I will read it out loud to ensure that my pronunciation is as accurate as possible. After that, all of the new words from that passage I will just write down on the side of a page. I find it easy for myself to remember things when I write them down and read it at the same time. Okay, long story short, Chinese is just a new addition to my weekly language plan that's been coming up, and I'll take it slow. My Chinese hasn't improved by leaps and bounds, but it's just fun to write down some new things and learn a few new words every week. I said I would quickly mention a bit on adjustments I've made to my language learning materials. By that, I specifically meant apps. So my phone is a very important part of my language learning process, and I used to have a ton, okay, I still do. This is my screen for my language apps, and there are even subfolders for other languages there, and another screen with some dictionaries. It's a lot. I recognize that I probably still have too many language apps. By taking the most important apps outside of their subfolders and putting them on the home screen, as well as deleting a whole bunch of apps, has made it easier for me to see them every time I swipe on my screen. And I found that I've been spending a bit more time on language learning apps and a bit less time on social media, for instance, which is a good thing. I've also gone through every single app that I have for Tagalog, and I have deleted the ones that just aren't cool or aren't working, and I have a much smaller collection of apps I'm using now. So I'm constantly in this process of like auditing the resources I have and seeing which ones are great and which work and which don't. And I'm not gonna make this video at all about which apps I think are the best for language learning. Everybody has a different thing that they look for in apps. Some of us really like audio, some of us like to be able to see the translations of the words directly. Some of us just like dictionary apps, others like games. I'm not really a big fan of games. So it's hard for me to say like this app is the best for languages or this app is the best, because we're all so different. But the point I'm trying to make is it's good to ask yourself like, hey, am I enjoying this? Is this really working for me? And if it's not, delete it. It's totally fine. It's okay if it was in your original language learning plan and you don't like it anymore. What kind of mindset I want to encourage myself, and if you want to take my advice as well, is just make changes as you go along. If it's not something you enjoy, delete it. Simple. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble about my thoughts surrounding languages. I hope it's going really well with you guys. We have made it through 2 months of 2021. Congratulations to us. Let's all keep enjoying the process and not making it harder than it should be, because language learning is already tricky. All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.